There it goes. My name is Alice Henry, and I am a program manager at the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional and unceded territories of the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations lands on which I live and work. Our audience today encompasses a much broader area, and we would like to encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat and acknowledge the host nation or nations of the land where you are located. Thank you in advance. And I'd also like to introduce our co-host.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Maria. I'm an analyst in circular economy at the Vancouver Economic Commission. This 6-part series is a collaboration between the VEC and the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative, powered and supported by Vancity. And so as the economic development agency to the City of Vancouver, VEC contributes to building a prosperous and inclusive, zero carbon and resilient Vancouver economy. Part of our work as the circular economy team includes various projects and programs that support the local business community in the transition towards a circular economy. So from the VEC today, we have myself, Vanessa Sun, and Kayla Almonte Davila joining us. Vanessa and Kayla, if you have your cameras on, please give us a quick wave. We're really looking forward to today's session, and Alice, back to you.
Thank you. The Share, Use, Repair initiative, the other co-host, brings together government, business, and community innovators to foster a circular economy that serves as a meaningful waste and climate solution, enables everyone to live circular, and supports resilient local economies and communities. Rosemary Cooper, our director, is joining us today in addition to myself. Rosemary, if you have your camera on, can you also give a wave? Vancity, who is our generous supporter today, is a cooperative financial institution committed to supporting its members and the communities they live in, and to leveraging all its assets to support a transition to a low-carbon, resilient economy that works for everyone. We are grateful to Vancity for powering the GVCEN series. This 6-part series has been designed to enable knowledge sharing around specific circular economy topics, most of interest to our circular business community. The circular economy is an economic model that extends the life cycle of products by keeping products and materials at their highest value and utility for as long as possible. Throughout this process, waste is eliminated through the reduction, reuse, repair, and recycling of materials to limit inefficiencies and close gaps within the system. Reusing materials results in a parallel reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and other environmental impacts, increased innovation, and the opportunity for significant cost reductions. In every session, you'll hear from subject matter experts and local businesses leading the way in our local circular economy, and be invited to ask questions directly to them. In the second half of each session, you'll join breakout rooms where everyone is invited to share their challenges, questions, and insights on the topic of the day. Every session, we will note learnings and resources shared. This morning, we'll learn from one another about integrating inclusive employment into the circular economy. When we discuss inclusive employment, we focus on those communities that have historically been exploited or marginalized and face barriers to employment, such as Indigenous communities, newcomers and refugees, people with disabilities, and those that struggle with mental health, addiction, or housing insecurity. We also include women and youth as their economic outcomes have been particularly impacted by the COVID pandemic. From today until mid-November, from today until February, we'll get together approximately once a month. This series is scheduled as follows, and you can see it on the slide here as well. In October, SRI will present results from the Stuff and Flux Global Consumer Insights Study. And in November, we'll have 2 sessions on carbon accounting. In January, we'll look at accessing and assessing research and development. And in February, growth and export beyond Vancouver's boundaries. We've set the schedule so that we can adapt each session by incorporating learnings from the previous session. We want this to be as beneficial for you as possible. SRI began our Just Circular Recovery and Transition program in June 2020 because we recognize that although share, reuse, and repair have tremendous potential to create inclusive jobs for all skill and income levels, and to support more affordable daily living, those opportunities are not well understood nor effectively communicated. Furthermore, the circular economy movement has not meaningfully engaged marginalized communities. Since the start of our JCRT program, we've engaged people and organizations from circular businesses, employment service providers, and the public sector, among others, to develop our strategy brief, Growing Inclusive Circular Jobs in the Lower Mainland and BC, which was published last spring. This session marks the beginning of our next stage of work, convening the Network for Inclusive Circular Employment. We think it's pretty nice, which is a nice acronym, to connect circular businesses interested in pursuing inclusive employment with communities that face barriers to employment. SRI also participates in BEC's new Just Transition Coalition. I'm happy to introduce Vanessa Sun, BEC's coordinator for their Just Transition work. I'm just going to
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Alice, for the introduction. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So give me 1 second. All right, I think you see my screen. So yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm honored to have a chance to just speak very briefly on what we have been doing here at the Vancouver Economic Commission. So as Alice mentioned earlier, I'm sure many of us here are aware that climate change does not affect everyone to the same degree. Lower income and socially marginalized populations will have more difficulty coping with the impacts of climate change. And not only do they encounter challenges in recovery after a major weather event like the floods we had last year, but they also have challenges within the workforce. Many face unstable employment, are in the informal workforce, or also in fields that are phasing out, such as oil and gas. As we transition towards a green and circular economy, it is important to make sure it is also a just and inclusive one, so that workers in the transitioning sectors and those currently excluded from our current economy will have access to employment that is stable and future-proof. And so our definition for the work we're doing at VEC have defined a just transition for Vancouver as such. It is a just transition is a worker-centered approach to minimize the impacts of environmental policies on workers in affected industries, and to ensure that new opportunities in the green economy will include those previously excluded from the high carbon economy. The just transition will help move the Metro Vancouver region towards a more equitable future where everyone has social protection, all jobs are decent, and emissions are low or at zero, and communities are thriving and resilient. So why the VEC? We were directed by the City of Vancouver's Climate Emergency Action Plan that was passed in 2020 to support a just transition for workers impacted by climate action. And so after our best practices research we conducted last year, we found that our role as the VEC was to proactively respond to net zero economy by co-creating a just transition coalition with our partners such as SRI, which can help ensure the just transition is not left at the discussion table, but actioned. This here is an example of what the coalition that we are planning to launch in early 2023 will look like. So we wanted to ensure that the coalition incorporated all facets of our economy, from the labor side to the community and the industry, as you can see here within our co-chairs and within the committee members that will be representing the steering committee. As well, where the actions piece that we're talking about earlier, this is where the subcommittees come in. They're the ones who will be creating the programmatic features that we hope can be created throughout our Just Transition Coalition. And so what can you do as a business or an individual interested in a just transition, especially within the circular economy? You can draw on existing resources to future-proof your workforce, such as the great report that SRI created on growing inclusive circular jobs in the Lower Mainland and BC, to understand what your readiness as a company is for this transition to a net zero and circular economy, and what kind of challenges the workforce would face. And lastly, talk to us about how you envision a just transition is, and provide your feedback, inquiries, and your knowledge to our Just Transition Coalition once it's launched. We would love to hear from you and your opinions. Lastly, if you want to connect with me and learn more about what we have, here's my contact information. I can drop it in the chat as well, and other partners that we're working with. So thanks, Alice. I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Vanessa. So now that you've heard why our organizations are very excited to have this session today, let's get on with it. And with that, oh, just need to bring up my notes. With that, onto our panel. I'm pleased to introduce Jana Glutting, a consultant at Circle Economy, focused on labor market dynamics and the just transition of a circular economy. She leverages her research background in the industrial policy of ASEAN to bring a global perspective on value chains within a circular economy. Jana, I'm just going to add you on the spotlight now and take it away.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much for having Circle Economy and myself invited to this event. We're very excited to learn as much as we can because it's such a big challenge that we still have a lot to learn. So today's presentation is prioritizing the inclusion element in the circular economy. Next slide. My name is Jana, as Alice mentioned. So I don't know if you guys know about Circle Economy, but we are an organization based in an NGO based in the Netherlands with an international team of over 50 people. Our mission is to empower businesses, cities, nations, and other international organizations with data, tool, and the knowledge to implement and practically implement their circular economy agenda. So I think everyone knows a bit what the circular economy is, so I'm just going to jump into the substance today. So while the circular economy is a means to an end, we believe it offers opportunities to change the way we live and work. We believe that the end being a space operating within the planetary boundaries and socially just for humanity. While it's an opportunity, the phrasing of it's an opportunity means that it is designed. It's not a passive outcome. So this is where the challenge is into not becoming business as usual. Next slide. So everyone knows that a shift from production system reliant from material to from relying on new material and raw material to a more labor intensive one is what the transition to the circular economy entails. So the challenge is not only redesigning existing jobs, but also looking into how these additional jobs that are to be created, which are labor intensive, how would they look like? So it is an opportunity to rethink how and who will perform these activities. And again, not to stress it enough, we're really trying to move beyond just the same old practices in just a different shape. Next slide. So circular economy, how we view this transition is we use the circle key element framework. And so we believe that seen in light blue, there are core activities which the economy should focus on assisting and developing and coordinating these core activities as the main pillars of the circular economy. So these core elements are prioritizing regenerative resources such as renewable energies, stretching the lifetime of the products and services, and using waste as resources. So what we want to do, thank you, Alice, sorry. So how these activities translate into jobs in a very similar dynamic? We have core, we have enabling, and we have indirect jobs. Almost all of these jobs contribute to the circular economy. That said, most of the discourse and observations are always looking into mainly repair and waste management, essentially looking only circular jobs or tend to focus mainly on core circular jobs. So we just want to remind everyone that circular jobs can be many things. And so there's different ways in which we could tap into this from an inclusion element, but in general, more broader sense, to keep that in mind. That said, it's very important to note that circular jobs per se are not necessarily inclusive nor socially minded. And this compounds the challenge when we see that there's clear overlap between labor-intensive core circular jobs and inclusion programs and social enterprises that are both labor-intensive. So there is some element in labor-intensive currently that has some issues when it comes to decent work, or when it comes to inclusion. Next slide. Oh, so as I said before, these are the main challenges that we have in the current linear paradigm. And so, and compounding that is that how circular economy currently is practiced and the efforts and priorities often lack the social component. So agendas tend to think of circularity in a more technical sense, but does not look into how that is implemented and the impact that has in the social or employment aspect. So this is why at Circle Economy, we have the Circular Jobs Initiatives, which is a unit that essentially looks at how the circular economy can positively contribute to employment relations, to work and the workers, and workers' environment, workplace. So first, we have 3 pillars of operation. One is looking and conducting research on what types of skills are required for the circular transition. How can we ensure quality of work is still maintained and further ensured in this new paradigm or revised paradigm? And then finally, how does the inclusion element interact with the circular transition? Again, there's so much to learn that we really do not know. We don't have a silver bullet, and we're still in the initial phases. The Circular Jobs Initiatives is at maximum 3 years old. So we're very new to this. So to start with this presentation, I think the main substance of the presentation is how I would like to present a bit 3 case studies that essentially comprise a combination between circular business, a social enterprise, and the inclusion element. So we worked with and we conducted research on with these 3 companies. The first one being Rotsfiets. Rotsfiets is a social enterprise founded as a repair and a bike building company that use spare parts to build new bikes. And at the core, they have the Fair Factory Foundation, in which they skill people distanced from the labor market to conduct this repairing and building new bikes from spare parts. What is important here to note on this very well-known social enterprise is that they were able to gain industry recognition, one on the quality of their bikes and their craftsmanship, but also their skilling capacity was recognized and accredited publicly, so that it allows workers that participate in this program and their company to then further look for jobs later on. And it's very well known and quite impressive. And so, and naturally from a repair social enterprise, now they're diving into trying to create the world's first circular bike. So I think that is one example of a variety of how inclusion, circularity, and the social enterprise component can look like. The next one is a zero waste delivery company. It's a startup that I think is maximum 3-4 years old. And what they do is they have a deposit system in which they deliver pasta, lentils, any type of food consumable in a glass container, and then when you're done, they bring it back, and then the business model is refilling those and then sending it back to you with an e-bike. So they saw that in their operation, the refilling needs could actually be done and complemented with a program from a public agency, employment agency, that also worked with people distanced in the labor market. And so they created this partnership to, it's a great synergy of, they had refilling needs in their operations, and then they saw this company, and then together they're still operating to this day. And so this is an example of how is a company that was not at all a social enterprise, nor was it had inclusion at its first in mind, and yet it was a circular company, and how they saw specific points in their value chain or in their business model that they could actually complement with inclusion programs, existing public inclusion programs. And finally, and I hope I'm not too boring, The last organization is Makers Unite, and it's a Dutch organization that originated with a clear advocacy message in 2016 with the refugee crisis in Europe, and they created this campaign. To welcome, saying that in the Amsterdam they welcome newcomers, and so they got life vests from Greece, and they brought them to Amsterdam, and they created this whole installation on like basically how we should be welcoming newcomers. So they started working with newcomers for this installation, and that created a platform of advocating for everyone, welcoming everyone essentially. And so from just creating this platform of like advocating for migration, they became a strong network with advocacy as its main core. And then they realized that they could start creating and the people that came for these events actually had a lot of knowledge in the textile sector. And so they started repairing and skilling each other. And then it became a more formalized project of actually reskilling people distant from the labor market, aside from newcomers that came in the Netherlands. And so currently right now, not only do they skill people in the repair sector or in the textile sector that are distant in the labor market, but they're also in the design phase, in the circular design phase of different companies. And the latest one being Patagonia and their repair shop, in which they've been able to manage a partnership with providing their Makers Unite is their repair lab. So basically with this, what I want to say is that the key takeaways, the main challenges that these three companies had, and in general, when we start to look at social enterprises and circularity, is that they're often confronted with a conflicting challenge of saying either they have to be social or they have to be environmental. So it often seems to be how should their mission be? It should be one or the other. And so that is often quite challenging, specifically, and that is also related to the funding opportunities and the partnerships that they try to engage with in their operations, because often public entities tend to have a different mission or a different outcome or different reporting styles as the social enterprise that they want to do, or the inclusion program that they want to move forward. That said, no, not yet. Sorry. That said, we believe, and through these three case studies, I hope that I was a bit clear on how inclusion and the circular economy can actually have mutually supporting agendas. Specifically, you can integrate either the social component, the inclusive component, or the circularity component at any point in time. And so that is, I think, a critical point, because sometimes we believe that everything has to be perfect all at once, but rather these case studies have shown that it can be in different occasions and point of time of a company. And so one thing that we would like to stress out is how the circular economy can be an opportunity for inclusive enterprises or social enterprises, specifically because we believe that inclusion fills the gap that is often perceived in the circular economy between the social and the environment. And then we also believe that if adopting a circular praxis can allow you to have greater visibility and ride the wave of the circular economy as it is now today when it comes to funding and partnerships. And I'm going to go with this. but yes, again, as I said, we're quite new in initiatives, so there's a lot more to learn, and we are definitely very curious to see what else is out there. Here's just a list of, well, a summary of a bit relevant resources that we have produced recently. Yeah, that range from how the importance of going beyond the technical in the circular economy, the relationship between inclusivity and decent work within the circular economy. We also do research, and we're still conducting research on the role of decent work in global value chains, and then many others that you can definitely look into our website. If you have any specific questions, I would love to answer them, and you can always email me at the address that is given here. I hope that I'm on time. And yes, as Alice mentioned, there is this reading that I think is very interesting for anyone that is interested in circularity and the different varieties of circularity, and that basically look into the different discourses within circularity and positioning them in a quadrant.
Great. One question did come up, and then we'll head to our next panelist. Kayla asked, can you share some examples of core, enabling, and indirect circular jobs?
Yes, definitely. So for example, core jobs are related, for example, to repair technicians, to advisors that support soil nourishment of organic fertilizers, things that are regenerative in nature, things that stretch the lifetime of products, such as repair technicians, I think that's mainly at the core. I don't know if I'm making any sense. For enabling, or can be from designing new business models, rethinking new ways of engaging with consumers, creating joint ventures or joint relationships with private public sector that are towards circular practices, or even teaching or conducting research in specific is these questions for I know or developing more research in this field. That would be for us enabling. And then indirect would be, for example, a farmer that uses renewable energy to power their tractor, a bank that provides financial loans to someone operating an electric machine. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And we've got quite a few questions that came into the chat as well. We do have a lot to fit into the session, so I'm going to move on to our next panelist, but Jan, I would absolutely welcome you to answer those questions in the chat that came up. And so thank you, Jana, so much. On to our next panelist, Cody Irwin. Cody has a deep connection and love for nature with a strong draw to technology and innovation. He was born on a remote farm in Manitoba, raised in Toronto, and then studied mechanical engineering at McGill University in Montreal. Over a decade ago, he moved to Vancouver and started his first venture, Natural Source, offering corporate food services for technology companies. He grew this business into a local industry leader until the pandemic closed offices and Natural Source's client base almost completely evaporated overnight. As devastating as this was, it proved to be an amazing opportunity. By repurposing his company's resources, he built ShareWares, a company on the forefront of the circular economy and eliminating single-use packaging waste. So welcome, Cody.
Thanks very much. Half my presentation was in that bio. I didn't know that those were going to happen, so that's all right. Let me just share up the screen. All right. So yeah, Cody Irwin from ShareWares in Vancouver. So yeah, from the bio, yeah, we had a business that was running for 10 years and the pandemic, I guess, just shot it. We dropped 98% overnight when offices closed. But what do you do when life gives you lemons? I guess most people got the salt and tequila and posted up for 6 months, but we actually got to work. So our mission now was to end the world's waste crisis. So billions of tons of waste and trash are dumped all over the planet annually, and it's toxic, it's terrible, and it actually affects climate change. So what are we going to do about it? Well, using the power of the circular economy, we can solve this issue. I've already gone into linear versus circular already, so I won't go through that again, and I'll just jump into our solution. So we've launched a citywide borrowing platform to supply, collect, wash, and track reusable packaging to, I guess, discontinue the need for any single-use packaging, cups, takeout containers, grocery packaging, bags. Our technology can extend farther than that too, to be an extended producer responsibility this tool to bring back anything, clothing, mattresses, laptops, car batteries, anything really can run on our platform. So how does it all work? It's based off an innovation on the, I guess, age-old deposit model. Customer goes into a coffee shop, orders a cup of coffee, pays $3 for that cup of coffee, and then pays a fully refundable $1.50 deposit on that cup. When they're finished, they scan the QR code on that. That's a unique identifier on each product, and that can tell them how to return their product and also to claim it to themselves so that they can get their refund back. When that product is returned, we can refund the customer their deposit via email money transfer, or alternatively, we also have the options to donate that to charity, which we just launched for some partners, and they can also bring the product back to us and get a cash refund. So it can be a total techless solution for full inclusivity. So we launched 12 months ago, and since then we've grown quite a bit. We're in over 50 locations, and most notably 10 Tim Hortons downtown. Our technology is on their reusable cups, and we're also the washing partner for them. We have over 2,000 users that are on our platform. We've done over 100,000 washes through our facility. We've also seen that for the transition to a circular economy, everything needs to be exactly how it was before, with minimal behavioral change. And so we need to make it as convenient as possible. So we've tried to make the reverse logistics super convenient. So we have 7 public collection bins in downtown Vancouver in partnership with Return at Dawn Corp. And that will be growing out. So they're curbside and in plazas. We have an office pickup partner, which is our previous business that's coming back right now with offices opening. Offices produce a lot of garbage and waste from takeout containers, people bringing in or ordering for offices, cups, things like that. So we're already going there. We can pick that up. We also have home pickup partners. It's a grocery delivery. They're already going to people's houses, and they can pick up and bring those items back for processing and washing. We're in 4 municipalities. We've done 6 festivals already. There's a huge area of waste. So that's a big target item for us, is to be able to do stadiums, concerts, large festivals in just a single afternoon. They can do hundreds of thousands of units of waste. So huge problem. And then we have 1 washing facility currently. It's centralized in Vancouver near Olympic Village, but our model does also work on a decentralized system. So that coordinates with our centralized system, where if your restaurant or cafe has washing facilities already, you could use those and save money. So we see actually this washing facility as like a great opportunity for inclusive employment, and that's what I'll get into now. So how did we start thinking about it? Well, it started out with 1,000 single-use coffee cup sleeves or heat sleeves, or seemingly single-use. Just because they're on a single-use cup doesn't mean they need to be only used once. They don't get soiled or damaged or anything like that, so they can be used over and over again. So we got a stamp, and we're going to stamp on all these, I am reusable. So we had thousands of these to go through. And so we had the work, and right down the street from our facility is what they called Cash Corner. There was a bunch of folks hanging out there waiting for a job they're keen to work and make money. So I didn't know how to engage them. I would have loved for them to come in and do the work for us ad hoc. That would have been great. But I didn't know legal implications, tax implications, just a general liability. So I obviously went to our friendly neighborhood circular economy professor at BCIT, Rosemary Cooper, and we set out on the path to try to figure it out. So through her sustainable business leadership course, we were able to get 5 bright young students working on the problem. We called it Operation Phoenix. It was coming out of the pandemic, rising out of the ashes. So this was co-sponsored by ShareWares for Repair Initiative, and that's where I got to meet the wonderful Alice Henry. And we also, it was co-sponsored also by the BC Center for Employment Excellence. The results were fantastic. It set us on a path. We got a roadmap and resources to help us out on our journey to create meaningful, fulfilling jobs for people with barriers to employment. And we are now happy to report that we have 2 wonderful people with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, working for us. And so far, it's working pretty great. So from our experience, I wanted to share kind of a quick start guide, just to help people see that it's not really that complicated. There's a lot of work involved for sure, but it can be simplified into this list. So first is connecting with the networks. So finding out the networks that are available. We're using Pacific Autism Family Network, and they can analyze your business and the types of jobs and tasks and see if they align with the group that they're working with. And they can also get you informed on what to expect of that group if they did come aboard. They can help you with the hiring and finding these people to help you. So then you need to find a champion within your organization that is going to take ownership of the whole program. So they're going to be doing the training, the hiring, the training, onboarding, and continuous support. So it's not just a set it and forget it and have somebody on and they're off they go. There is continual support that is needed in check-ins. And then your team needs to be trained, and you need to get awareness of the different behaviors and dynamics that could be coming into the workplace, because it might not be business as usual. It's generally not negative or anything, but it could be disruptive if they don't have that awareness. And you want to make sure that there's safety and comfort in your working environment for everybody. Next is documentation. Your champion might want to take a day off or a vacation or might get sick. So you want to make sure that continuous support happens every day, all day. And so there is no potential for any issues, because you don't want to have anybody upset. And then that comes to the kind of like the support systems and making use of those. The networks that you connect with will have a list of the people that you can continuously get support with after you've onboarded. You're not just like left stranded and like figured it out yourself. There's lines and people that you can call and get tips and advice for certain situations. But then there's also subsidies. Those resources are available because there is a lot more I guess employee costs and time in managing this. So the subsidies are helpful for getting something like this going. And I just want to throw this slide in there to show even more magic of the circular economy, if you didn't know how magical it really was. So on top of having so much opportunity for inclusive employment, there's all the global change that can happen around it. So we overlaid what a circular economy or reuse economy would look like in Vancouver. We overlaid the, or I guess in any city, we overlaid the UN's SDGs. And if at scale, we could be addressing 16 of the 17 SDGs. Now that is pretty much good. Yeah, that's me. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, and I look forward to your questions.
Great, thank you, Cody. All right, so looking for questions from the group, but in the meantime, a question for you. What was something maybe unexpected that you learned through the process of integrating inclusive employment into ShareWares and bringing those 2 people with autism spectrum disorder into your workforce?
I guess it was having that manual when that person went off on vacation, and it was just kind of a verbal, like, oh, you just do this, this, and this, and have a, you know, a couple things. And then I was there managing it. And when I should have been setting like alarms to be like, go check in, you know, every 30 minutes. So I wasn't expecting that at all. And so that's why that manual is so key, and having that cross training. And make sure that it's super clear before that happens, because yeah, it could become devastating. Like it can really affect the people that you're working with. So they weren't devastated by it, but I could see how it could. So that was a big deal.
Absolutely. And what is something that you're continuing to work on to be able to maintain the inclusive nature of your workplace at ShareWares?
It's also the manuals for the people themselves, and learning from them and like what they exactly need. So having check-ins with them, especially if you can see them feeling frustrated, if you have someone that is, I guess, more highly sensitive people that can pick up when somebody's in distress. That's always good to have, but then check in with them and say, like, you know, what's going on, and then see, like, give them options, like if we had this manual, if there's more pictures on this, if it was all pictures, you know, like if we simplified this, or if we expanded this, if there's a checklist, things like that, like the tool, like you have to create the tools, because everybody is very unique in what they need. And so kind of listening and taking the time to build out that system for those unique individuals is definitely important.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And one question was, you said that 16 of the 17 SDGs were covered. What was the one that wasn't covered?
Oh, it was what's the justice and governance. It's number 16. Well, obviously.
Number
No,
16.
it's not obviously.
All right.
But yeah, it's basically we couldn't address like human trafficking and things like that. So we're like we tried to figure out some ways of addressing those, but yet wasn't in what we're doing.
All right. And so with that, we will be moving on to our final panelist. I would like to introduce Reverend Matthew Smedley, the Executive Director and CEO of Mission Possible. Since 2007, Matt has helped Mission Possible transition its programming from offering basic street-level care to being a leading community economic development organization in Vancouver's downtown east side. Though his role at Mission Possible is varied and complex, his favorite part about his job has stayed consistent: the people. He loves both the Mission Possible team that works alongside him, as well as the community of amazing people who offer everyday inspiration. Matt has served as a pastor in the inner city and has over 5 years of experience working in the trades. He is a certified leadership coach, holds a graduate certificate from SFU in community economic development, and has a BS from Cairn University. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much. Just going to share my screen here. And away we go. So really happy to be able to join with you this morning, and joining from the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, but particularly in the downtown east side of Vancouver. Many of you are very familiar with the downtown east side of Vancouver, but for me, it always helps to remind me of the numbers and just the scale of what our community is and the challenges that we are facing. And so, you know, the downtown east side has over 20,000 people who call this place home, and over half are living in poverty. That challenge creates a lot of opportunity for really innovative work, but it also carries a lot of stigma and creates a lot of challenges for the folks who live here. And so Mission Possible has been in this community for over 30 years. And over a decade ago, we really kind of transitioned what the work was, really creating community and community development work and transitioned into community economic development work. And so really wanting to, really made, changing lives through meaningful work the core of our DNA. And so the reason that we did this was really because we listened to the community and asked what are the things that are most needed? What are the things this community wants? And opportunities for work is really what rose to the top. And so for people who are experiencing poverty, mental health challenges, periods of homelessness, unemployment, or even just live in this community and have your postal code here, there's so much stigma that comes from that ultimately creates exclusion from work opportunities. And so, lots of folks have, the stereotypes around people who live in this community, that they're lazy and they don't want to work. And really the opposite is true. People want to work, they want to be able to contribute, but they just need the right opportunity. And so for us, we've been working with a number of social enterprises for a number of years and really looking at all of us working together to kind of fit into different places within the livelihoods continuum. And so Mission Possible really falls into the supported employment area. And so this is just a scale kind of looking at very informal work into more traditional and formal competitive employment. And so our goal really is to help individuals move from supported employment into competitive employment and really help to prepare them for that opportunity. And so what we do is we run an employment readiness program. And so this actually came about after we started our social enterprises. And so we started our social enterprises, began to create employment opportunities and see people really begin to change and thrive and really embrace those opportunities, but recognize there's still additional supports that are needed and that people were asking for. And so we began to craft what we call our employment readiness program, which is really some workshops. It provides one-on-one coaching for individuals. And then the transitional employment piece allows individuals to work for a minimum of 6 months in our social enterprises. And so we recognize, there's this community has just amazing people who are incredibly gifted. And so we want to help people navigate a journey towards stable employment and ultimately just having healthier lives. And so our program really just, the key pieces of it are the 6 months of paid work, working alongside people and breaking out of isolation and finding places of connection within the workplace is really key for everything from folks who are on a sobriety journey and want to be able to maintain that. The connection really helps to strengthen those outcomes. The connections help to really build confidence for people. And that confidence goes beyond just the workplace into other parts of their lives. And we see folks who they move into employment and they begin volunteering at other places, or they begin new things and just really creates a real sense of momentum for them in their lives and moving forward.
Matt, just letting you know, we are still just seeing your title slide. I'm not sure if you've been transitioning
really?
slides.
Oh.
Yes.
I have been flipping through slides, so that's unfortunate. Let me see if I can share it again here. So there, now maybe that will work. I'll go to where I'm at. Yeah, so apologies for that. So the majority of our participants who work with us are folks who have some form of disability, but are not, are still individuals who want to work and have real gifts and skills that they can contribute in the workplace. And so for us, it's really about trying to create opportunities for them to exercise those. In addition to employment, we also do some wraparound things helping with food security, providing lunches every day for folks who work with us. We do public meals as well, housing supports, and a number of other opportunities just for learning, and also just engaging in recreational activities and opportunities for people to deepen relationships with those they're working with. And so the two opportunities that we offer, one is a maintenance company, MP Maintenance, offers exterior property cleaning. And so really is, it is a bit more labor-based, but we try to make it very accessible. Everybody starts doing litter pickup, and pretty well anyone can do it. We have folks who have worked with us who don't, have been missing limbs, who, have actually, require walkers, but when they're doing this work, they're actually able to, use the dolly that they're working with to support them and things like that. And so I've really tried to make it inclusive and be able to open it up to anybody who has those kinds of abilities. And so, as you know, in social enterprise, and we've been talking about this, it's really about striking this balance between creating social impact, but also financial sustainability. Those are both critical pieces to social enterprise, and so as we do this fee-for-service work, we also have to recognize sometimes we have to subsidize some of the wages and things like that if we aren't as profitable as we need to be. But the goal for us is always to break even. And so we're not looking to make a profit to fund the charitable side of our organization, but we do want our social enterprises to break even. So you probably have heard the term around social return on investment. And this is really just a term thinking about what the impact is of those who are employed in social enterprise. So Ernst & Young did a study commissioned by Atira a few years back, and then they did it a second time just to kind of compare, and found that for every dollar that they paid in wages to those working in their social enterprise, there was a $4.13 return on investment within the community that was recognized, really in a circular way. Things like money being recirculated within the economy. There was reduction in emergency services and kind of a host of factors that played into that. But just recognizing social enterprise is a real critical tool for us to see social change, and the financial outcomes are actually incredibly positive, even if they, some businesses are kind of hesitant to pursue it because of the perceived cost that's there. Just quickly, our second social enterprise is what we call MP Neighbors. This is a community watch service and security company. We actually hire individuals from the community to be able to provide safety and security services to the community, so that they have come with lived experience. They come with real ability to connect and to understand those who are on the streets and be able to de-escalate in a really positive and healthy way. And so those two social enterprises really are kind of a stepping stone for folks to be able to move into employment outside of Mission Possible, which is ultimately the long-term goal. While we would love to employ everyone in this community, we can't do it ourselves. And we actually right now have stopped our intake because we have too many people wanting to start work, and we just don't have enough employment opportunities for them to get going at the moment. And so in order for us to support people, we have to be able to connect to partner businesses, to be able to see companies that are willing to do inclusive hiring and be able to make those connections and help our participants, work with us and then make this transition into other employment opportunities. And so one of the things that we have done is work with a number of the social enterprises in this community, some who are on this call, to create a guidebook that's called Untapped Talent. You can see it there, and it's available at untappedtalent.info. You're free, it's free to download. Encourage you to check it out, but it's really just best practices for doing inclusive hiring. There's, really just lots of really simple and accessible ways that small and medium-sized businesses can tailor the way that they do everything from their recruiting to their onboarding to their, their retention strategies that can really be life-changing for folks who are coming in and taking hold of those opportunities. But not only that, it's transformative for the business as well. Some of the data is on this slide that businesses and organizations with inclusive cultures generate 1.4 times the revenue of their competitors. 92% of consumers favor companies that hire people with diverse abilities. And the culture of businesses that embrace these practices improves, and you actually see just a healthier culture that leads to more engagement from your employees. So there's not really a reason not to do this, and it is really accessible. Some of the challenges that people sometimes face is they don't know, may not even think to do this, to embrace inclusive hiring practices, or they don't know how. And so this guidebook is really, it's available, and really we want to have it shared, have these principles shared, and ultimately see more opportunities open up for individuals who have been excluded from employment. Some of the really simple things that I'll just kind of summarize from the guidebook that businesses can do. It really starts with recognizing that people are capable and helping to tailor the opportunities to what their strengths are. So some of that may be breaking a full-time role into a part-time role, with a couple of people instead of just one person, which actually helps to, offer some additional resources there if someone's off sick or things like that. It gives you an additional person, but can also make that role more accessible. Having a bit more flexibility in scheduling, if that's possible for certain roles, that really can be simply just what people need is a little more flexibility in scheduling. And then when it comes to interviewing, people will often just do conversational style sit-down interviews, which sometimes are not really that, won't give you the, the insights that you're looking for, whether an individual can actually do this, but can also be a real weakness for people and doesn't actually lead to their strengths or lean into their strengths. And so changing a conversational interview to an actual working interview can really make the recruiting process a lot more accessible to individuals who have been excluded from opportunities. So there's lots more tips within the guidebook, but yeah, for me that's about it, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Oh, I lost your spotlight. Let me add you back in. One question did come up for me and for someone else. Is it possible to get access to that SROI report that you referred to? I think it was the Ernst & Young report that done with Atira. Yeah, it's easily searchable. If you just search Atira Ernst & Young report, it will pop up probably the first thing on your Google search. I don't have the address to it right now, but it's publicly available online. Absolutely. And one question, since there are a number of circular businesses and innovators on the call, if a business was interested in connecting with Mission Possible to help, you have more demand than you can meet right now. And had to pause intake. So if a business wanted to begin working with Mission Possible, what are the first steps to get that started? Yeah, absolutely. You can just reach out to us. If you want to email directly, the email address is hire, HIRE, at mission-possible.ca. Or you can, just contact us through our website, which is also mission-possible.ca. And we'd be happy to connect with you. You can even come down, do a tour, see what our operation is, meet some folks. We'd be very happy to work with any and all of you. All right. And then just quickly before we head into breakout rooms and some further discussion, I just brought all the panelists back on. Audience members, if there were any final questions that you had for any of our panelists, I know that we had to rush through some of the Q&A. And so if there were any lingering questions, I wanted to create an opportunity now for you to ask our panelists, and you can either ask them in the chat or come off mute and ask them. One question did just come in for Jana. With a future circular economy, is there tension between a reskilled labor force and robotics? How is this addressed?
So can you repeat? I know it's a super complex question. Can you repeat it once more?
With a future circular economy, is there tension between a reskilled labor force and robotics? How is this addressed?
Oh, it's actually currently it's in parallel. There is one side that is saying it's not really discussed, so to say. No, the only bridge I would say that is apolitical would be through digital technology. But it's not really discussed currently, precisely this. Maybe that could be a research project, and definitely be interested in hearing the outcome. But yeah, the tension between robotics, but again, that's my personal belief. It's not Circle's belief, I would say. But I think, again, no, it's something to do with, it's a designed outcome, what we want to do. So even if robotics is there, the opposition is because there is lack of intention to include people in the center of any policy. So that would be my personal take. And I think overall, yeah, the design element is, the transition is a design feature. It's not, it doesn't just happen.
Yeah, and I think something that we've also come across in our work is that for a lot of circular stuff like repair, it's not easily switched to robot. Like, it is just more labor intensive work. It just requires people because you sort of need that hands-on judgment and ability to sort of problem solve on the spot.
I guess on that note, would Matt, what would you think about government subsidizing or continuing to subsidize a lot of the programs? You get the subsidies for a short period of time, and then they end, and then you have like the same, yeah, I guess that could throw people off, but also like the cost of stuff that we do that's more manual is a lot higher than getting, cups made in China and even shipped over here and everything. They're pennies, where washing a cup will, cost 25 cents, 50 cents, something like that. So what would you see about governments continuously subsidizing labor to bring down the cost of the manualness of circularity in a local fortified environment? Like, is there any action that's going towards that? You think that's even a possibility? Any resources you could suggest for us to start going up that river? And
I think that nicely parallels Jana's question for Matt as well, of what public support there is for Mission Possible's mission.
Yeah, and I did put that in the chat. Like 70% of our revenue comes from fee for service. We don't actually receive like any core government support, but fortunately, because of the pandemic, the government did launch a work experience grant that allows you to receive up to $5,000 for, I believe it's up to 10 individuals. And so it essentially is to subsidize wages to give people work experience and allow them to re-engage employment. Apart from that specific program, we don't have any kind of core support. We do receive some government grants that are fee for service ultimately, but are given in the form of a grant for us to do things like litter pickup and clean up around the city. But if that was an option, if there was ongoing ways to ensure that you could continue to create subsidized positions and wouldn't have to spend time fundraising and doing that whole all those activities, certainly would create bigger impact for sure. And there's certainly there is the financial piece to it of to, you know, what the community benefit is to actually seeing more income in, you know, more people having more jobs, you know, and larger incomes, that ultimately equates to a stronger local economy and a stronger community. And so there's certainly good arguments for why the government should do that.
Yeah. Also, if you look at the cost, like someone was asking about the economic efficiency, but if you look at costs of any operations, it tends to be labor is the largest cost, no? But then also there's this movement within a spectrum of like circular economy, researchers and so on that actually say that actually advocating for lower labor intensive tax, no? Lower taxing on labor and actually increasing it on other aspects such as maybe capital, because capital right now is very cheap. You know, so how come labor is so cheap in that sense? You know, so most of the cost is actually and it's disproportionately put on the labor part than on other costs that maybe are not the true costs. That's it.
All right. And so with that, we're going to transition right now to breakout rooms. So I'm just going to, yeah, go into that. Thank you to Jana, Cody, and Matt for sharing your time and expertise today so much. We are, as I said, going to shift into our breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have a facilitator and a note taker from the VC and SRI teams. We will have 2 breakout rooms, and we are, and you've been automatically assigned already to them. We will be following Chatham House rules, so we welcome everyone to share candidly in these spaces. We won't be recording them. After the meeting, you can bring up points that people spoke to, but we ask that you do not attribute it to them directly per Chatham House rules. The breakout room prompting will show up on your screen soon, and we will be coming back together at 11:20 a.m. And then we'll just do some quick debrief and concluding. So with that, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. And if anyone has trouble, I can help get you into the room.
I didn't go into the room for some reason, Alice.
Yeah, do you see the pop-up?
I saw it for a second and then it went away.
It was the same for me. It came up for a second and then disappeared.
Like I couldn't even, I couldn't catch
it. I might move you to one room and then move you back and see if that helps. Does that work?
It might be that we're co-hosted. Okay, you want me to go to room 2? Oh,
I want you to go to room 1, but I exchanged you to make it work. So
Right.
just join, yeah.
I know, but room 2 came up and then room 1 came up and it just left immediately. Or try.
Yeah, so don't click room 2. This is me trying to, don't click room 2.
No, I won't.
Now it should be room 1. There we go.
You want me in room 1 as well?
I'm actually going to move you to room 2 just anyways, because they have slightly less people. All right. Do you see it?